under the green light, and away we go then, and straight into the lead. James Holman, the poleman.
Paolo De Conto is the 2018 champion. He is victorious once again.
Well done, Lewis Gilbert, and congratulations to Matilda Olson. Strawberry 1-2.
Next time around, they'll get the last lap board. When will Barnacle start to defend? The answer is now.
He goes for the move immediately into the hairpin, and Travers Anuto leads the World Championship.
The checkered flag comes out. Oh, did he love that?
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
Hello everybody and welcome again. Yes, it is the second edition of the Send It podcast, all about the world of karting. Wherever you are around the world, hopefully there is some relevance for you. And obviously, as we continue, we will hopefully grow and expand in reach and hopefully in terms of audience. I'm Jake Sanson. He's Alex Goldschmidt sitting there beside me in the studio. I'm the voice of Iami. He's the voice of Rotax. We've got plenty to talk about over the course of, the next however many minutes it takes. Alex Goldschmidt, fully recovered, I'm sure, from the Rotax Winter Cup at Campillos. It looked pretty cool. It looked pretty awesome.
It was pretty manic, to be completely honest with you, Jake. I mean, I've never had so many races to commentate on in such a compressed amount of time. 24 qualifying heats on the Saturday and 10 for the senior Rotax division. Yes, 10. I had difficulty keeping up. I said to somebody, I think we've got 22 heats today. Went, no, 24. I was like, hang on a minute. I've got another 12 to do tomorrow.
Welcome to my world.
I think talk about trying to sink or swim, and thank goodness I definitely swam rather than sank with both leaded feet. But apart from that, a couple of days resting the old vocal cords, ready for what I'm doing this weekend. But it's thank goodness it's not on the same temerity or severity. That's a couple of long words for this particular show, isn't it?
Very true. Well, seeing as how it has only just happened, the Rotax Winter Cup over at Campillos, and you were joined by Sara Moore, you managed to record a brief overview as to what happened over the course of the weekend. Mm-hmm. So let's have in conversation our very own Alex Goldschmidt and, of course, co-commentator for the weekend, Sara Moore.
So after a very exciting 2020 Rotax Max Challenge Winter Cup here at Circuito Internacional de Karting Campillos, 5 different Winter Cup winners from 5 different nationalities represented by Great Britain, Poland, Finland, Belgium and France. Sara Moore is with me at the moment. Sara, it's been an exciting weekend all round. 8 qualification sessions on Friday afternoon, 24 qualifying heats on Saturday, and then we had, I think, the coup d'etat, the pièce de résistance, as they say, with 2 second chance heats in junior and senior Rotax, and then we had the 10 finals. It was... I think I've run out of superlatives. Yeah. But just really sort of some of the highlights. I mean, we were both looking forward to senior Rotax, and by every stretch of the imagination, it didn't disappoint.
No, when we first arrived on Friday and we saw the qualifying, you could see how close, and obviously the big grids in senior Rotax. So I think that's what kind of drew me to it, in all fairness, was the big grids. And they definitely provided some great racing, but I think another highlight for me was actually watching the micros. It's the first time I'd ever seen them. So to watch those guys race and again put up some good battles was interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I think our winners this weekend, DD2 Masters was Rudy Champion from France. Zana Triblak had the perfect weekend for DD2 from Belgium. Juho Valtonen, after a post-race penalty for Sean Butcher, took the win in senior Rotax, which had a lot of casualties, including Dean McDonald, Mark Kimber, Guilherme de Oliveira, who I saw had his right hand bandaged up after that incident, which was something I was actually meant to mention to you earlier. But Matilda Olson, the Euro Trophy champion, had a disaster, as when we went from full course yellow to green flag, the race director basically waved his finger as if to say no to Sean Butcher. Sean Butcher gets a penalty post-race, but Matilda Olson, the biggest casualty, I think, in some respects, because they came out of the start formation and she was so into a crawl and then managed to get it all restarted again. And it just shows that there are so many different dynamics in senior Rotax that when you have 69 drivers,
you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. So Juho Valtonen from SB Motorsport, who did a Kimi Räikkönen on the podium, swinging straight from the bottle, not wasting one drop. Ollie Pilker from Dan Holland Racing from Poland won Junior Rotax. And good news for Great Britain, Scott Marsh took the win in Micromax.
Brilliant stuff. Rotax Winter Cup 2020, lots of action and great to see so many brilliant names from all over Europe and, of course, further afield getting some brilliant success there. We'll talk a little bit later on about the goings-on at the IAMI Winter Cup at Valencia a few weeks ago. However, first of all, the news.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
At the opening round of the IAMI Asia Series at Sentul in Indonesia, Seb Kaupang of the Philippines bagged a win on the last lap of the cadet final ahead of Timofey Mikhailov and Chanoknan Vidatacha. Ayrton Asdathorn finally picked up his first win in Junior X30 for CRG Thailand ahead of Zachary David and Pratera Imran, whilst Prasetyo Harja continued his dominant streak in Senior X30 to win on home soil ahead of Alex Wang and Ayato Iwasaki. And it was an all-Indonesian veteran rostrum in Master as Haridama Manopo grabbed the win, beating Eris Marpud and Freddy Rustiawan. In other news, Timofey Mikhailov was declared the winner of last month's IAMI Asia Cup in the cadet class after Travis Teo was excluded for a technical infringement, having originally won the race under appeal. 3 wins out of 3 saw Nicholas Stura dominate the Bambino class at the 4th round of the current IAMI Series UAE at Al Fusan. Keanu Alajari grabbed the junior win ahead of Alex Renner and Zach Scular. Filippo Parmigiani returned to winning ways ahead of Matteo Quintarelli and Federico Al Rafai in the mini class, whilst Lachlan Robinson triumphed in the senior class, beating Carl Kumaran and Liam Crystal, with wins for Asif Mir in Master ahead of Ekaterina Kazakova and Sam Walker, a shifter win for Saeed Al Ali in front of Mohamed Matar and Omar Al Darayan, and a veteran domination for Tony Hogg ahead of Abdullah Al-Ari and Walid Al-Qasimi. The 25th Lanato Winter Cup saw Emirati star Rashid Al-Daheri claim a stunning win in Mini Rock ahead of Russian stars Dmitry Matveev and German Fotiv, whilst in OK Junior it would be victory for Norwegian ace Martinius Stenshorn ahead of British rivals Freddie Slater and Arvid Lindblad. Joe Turney took his first OK win of 2020 ahead of world champion teammate Lorenzo Travasanuto and young Kimi Antonelli. KZ2 saw Giuseppe Palomba give the Charles Leclerc chassis another victory ahead of Ricardo Longhi and Jeremy Iglesias. A week later, the WSK Supermasters Series continued at Lanato with a win for Russia's Gerasim Skulanov in the mini-final ahead of Rashid Al-Daheri and Dmitry Matveev. In OK Junior, British star Arvid Lindblad took the top step of the podium, beating Brando Badua and Igor Sapil to the flag, whilst in OK, it was Joe Turney who bagged another triumph, this time ahead of his fellow teammate and former world champion Pedro Hiltbrand, with young Italian star Kimi Antonelli on the rostrum again beside them. But in the KZ2 final, nothing could halt the current march of Giuseppe Palomba, who claimed a home win ahead of Fabian Ferreira and Alessandro Irlando. In the MENA Nations Cup at Al Ain Raceway in Oman, Zach Sowerby was fastest in 2 of the 3-time Bambino sessions to claim top honours, with Julian Alkinda claiming the 3rd. Micromax was won after 2 days of intense competition by Christopher El Fagali, with Benjamin Wade and Zayn El Hamossani joining him on the final podium. In Minimax, George Gibbons Motorsport dominated proceedings, with British stars Harry Hannam winning and Bertie Gibbons second, ahead of Australian star Lewis England. Georgie Zhuin of Canada won the Junior Max crown, ahead of Fahad Al-Khaled and William Wade, whilst Khaled Saab returned to winning ways in Senior Max, ahead of Theo Kakati and Jacobo Mazza. India's ace racer Carl Kumaran bagged the victory in DD2, ahead of Matthias Najim and Abdullah Al-Rawahi, with the masterclass won by Spain's Dario Rubio. Now here's Alex Goldschmidt with news from Rotax.
Northamptonshire live streaming experts Alpha Live have now recently been announced as the new media partner for the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships, with the 2020 season set to get underway at Paul Fletcher International between March 21st and 22nd, with the first of 6 Rotax racing rounds. Alpha Live have now been given the opportunity to broadcast and livestream from all 18 race meetings in the 2020 season, with current Managing Director Luke Austin saying that they are delighted to be partnering up with Motorsport UK for the entire season, and also which will see that the British Kart Championships will be live streamed for the very first time. According to Championship Manager Dan Parker, he said that Motorsport UK and the Championship also welcome Alpha Live as the dedicated media partner for Season 2 of the British Kart Championships, and they are looking forward to working with the leading streaming company in karting, and they are also excitedly planning for the season ahead with fresh innovative ideas to ensure that the media coverage of the British Kart Championships offers an unrivaled promotional platform for their competitors. 2020 sees a new direction for Scotland's Kasper Tomilewski. Based out of Glasgow, the youngster, who has been racing in Honda Cadet for the last couple of seasons, will make his Mini-Max debut on the 2020 Rotax Max Challenge Poland calendar as he joins CRG MK Racing, one of the satellite teams over in Poland. He joins the likes of Colin Vasny and also David Outlander to join the series. We look forward to seeing how young Kasper gets on in his debut on a Mini-Max in 2020. The organisers of the Western Canadian Karting Championship, the Max Karting Group, are organising a one-off event known as the Rotax Max Challenge Canada Final that will take place at the Warburg Rotax Mojo Raceway just outside of Edmonton in Alberta between the 10th and the 12th of July, where 12 champions, including the new editions of both Briggs 206 and Shifter classes, will be crowned that very weekend. There'll be 6 tickets for those wanting to represent Team Canada at the Bahrain International Circuit at the Grand Finals on November 7th for Micro, Mini, Junior, Senior, DD2 and DD2 Masters. And what's more, if a Rotax driver takes part in 3 respective club races at their local Western Canadian Karting Club using the current 2020 Rotax regulations and Mojo tyres, they will also get an incentive of a heavily discounted entry fee. Plenty of Rotax racing action throughout the month of March, first of all starting in South America. As the third round of the 2020 Rotax Max Challenge Mexico Noreste season gets underway at Nuevo Leon's Santiago Racing Track, the Al Ain Raceway will host the penultimate round of the 2020 UAE Rotax Max Challenge season on March 7th. Also, at the East London Grand Prix circuit, the Eastern Province qualifying round 1 for Rotax Max Challenge South Africa also gets underway. Kajisa's XRP Autodrome will host the 4th round of the 2020 Rotax Max Challenge Colombia season between March 7th and 8th. And also in continental Europe that same weekend, the B&L Karting Series promotes its grand kick-off at the home of champions Karting Genk in Belgium, which you can listen to live and uninterrupted, only on Rotax Radio. The first round of the Japan APG Rotax Max Challenge season gets underway on March 8th in Oyama at the Auto Paradise Gotemba circuit, with DD2 Masters and Max Masters in action. The second round of qualifying for the KwaZulu-Natal stages of the Rotax Max Challenge South Africa season gets underway at Idube Raceway. The Rotax Max Challenge Central Eastern Europe season gets underway with the Bonus Cup on March 13th to 15th at Jesolo in Italy. Also, Cape Town's Killarney Racetrack will host the Western Province qualification round for Rotax Max Challenge South Africa on the 14th of March. And back in South America, in Lima at La Chatuna, the 4th round of the Rotax Max Challenge Peru season gets underway. Back over to now the Netherlands, as the Dutch Rotax Max Challenge Chrono Karting season gets underway with the first round at Circuit Park-Berghem on the 14th to the 15th of March. Also in Pattaya at the Birakart circuit, the first round of Rotax Max Challenge Thailand gets underway. The penultimate weekend of the month itself sees Kfar Saba host the first round of the Rotax Max Challenge Israel season, whereas at the Cartodromo Internacional Cuatula in Mexico will host the second round of the Rotax Max Challenge Mexico Nacional season. Jesolo again will host more events in the month of March, as the 20th to the 22nd of March will see the first round of the Rotax Max Challenge SSC Club Cup, and also the first round of Rotax Max Challenge Austria. Down under at Todd Road in Melbourne, the first round of the 2020 Rotax Max Challenge Pro Tour Australia gets underway, and then back over to the UK now for the first of 6 rounds for the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships, as Paul Fletcher International opens the season once again. The final weekend of the month itself sees the final round, where champions will be crowned for the 2020 UAE Rotax Max Challenge season finale, once again being held at Al Ain Raceway. Rotax Max Challenge South Africa National first round will take place between the 27th and the 29th of March at Idube Raceway, and in Athens at Kartodromo Afidnon, the first round of Rotax Max Challenge Greece gets underway. Over at Clark's Papania International Circuit in the Philippines hosts their championship for the first of their Rotax Max Challenge season. Japan once again will have more action, this time at Festica Mizunami for DD2 Masters and Max Masters, as round 1 of the Rotax Max Challenge Japan Mizunami season. After a 4-year absence, the Rotax Max Challenge Winter Cup returned to southern Spain, as the Circuito Internacional de Karting Campos hosted 200 drivers representing 29 different nationalities, all vying for their fair share of a €31,000 prize fund at the 1,588 metres circuit, which proved to be a challenge for all that ventured to Andalusia. For Micromax, a new chapter, a new era and a new winner. Great Britain's Scott Marsh, the number 47 from Dan Holland Racing, would make sure that victory in the second final on Sunday afternoon would secure his place in Winter Cup Championship history, as he would be level on points with Matej Radenkovic from Belgium in the 96, but on account of his second win of the Sunday finals day, secured him the Winter Cup crown, and with it gives him a free season entry to all three events that Micromax will be running on the Euro Trophy calendar at Genk, Adria and PF International. Radenkovic, having finished as runner-up, will end up going to the International Trophy at Le Mans between the 28th of July and the 1st of August. Stampex Motorsport's Dean Hugendorn from the Netherlands rounded out the rostrum just 4 points ahead of the furthest travelled driver, Endo Arata from Japan, to take the final step of the rostrum, and with it will also be able to enter one of the 3 rounds for the Euro Trophy in Micromax in 2020. With the coronavirus spreading across Central Europe, including parts of northern and southern Italy, the organisers of the Rotax Max Challenge Central Eastern Europe have now relocated the bonus cup that was originally scheduled to take place between the 13th and the 15th of March at Jesolo in Italy. However, with the Italian nation now being affected, the organisers have taken it upon themselves to relocate the event to the Speedworld facility at Bruck an der Leitha in Austria, a short drive from Vienna International Airport, on the same weekend. Well, that's it for all things Rotax here on Send It. When it comes to the news, let's head to Jake for the rest of the roundup.
UKC Global, the promoters of the all-new Ultimate Karting Championship, have announced that their inaugural season will be featured on the Sky Sports F1 channel, the first ever British karting series to receive such global coverage on the channel. Prizes including a test run for the Junior X30 champion in a Ginetta Junior car and a Carlin F4 test day for the Senior X30 champion have also been announced, as well as a brand partnership with Ravenol UK and RPM Engines as official partners for the Honda Cadet class. Elsewhere, the LGM series will be filmed in 2020 by TDI Media, the first time that the UK-based Diami X30 series will receive television coverage. The programmes will all be available on YouTube. This weekend's prestigious Trofeo Andrea Margutti has been postponed due to the widespread outbreak of the coronavirus in Italy. With a state of emergency declared and 2 weeks of quarantine announced in 11 cities across the Northern Territories, the 31st running of the event will be run at a later date, yet to be confirmed by Parmasport SSD. Motorsport UK have announced that their selected driver for this year's FIA Karting Academy Trophy is the talented Junior X30 racer Theo Makouris. Croc Promotions' lead driver in the category and last year's Mini X30 British Vice Champion will take on the 3-round series commencing in May at Lonato. And finally, the 7th Kart Summer Camp is to be held at Adria International Raceway during the first week of July for racers aged between 6 and 10 years old. 20 OTK group karts will be provided, and for the first time, the event will see the sessions divided into 2 groups of 20 participants, for 40 applicants in total spread out over the week. Applications are open until April 15th.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
So that is all of the latest news and happenings. One of the interesting stories there, I do feel we should talk about a little bit there, Alex, is the disbanding and postponement of the Trofeo Andrea Margutti, which is a very, very sad case of affairs, but obviously part of the growing concerns going on within not just Asia, but also now coming into Italy and the wider parts of Europe if it continues to expand with the coronavirus. Very disappointing and very unfortunate, but obviously it was very good to see that Parmasport decided with just under a week to go, they decided to make a decision before everybody flew out. And I have to say, safety does come first, and I think it was right to make that decision.
That's very much the case. Obviously, the Rotax Max Challenge Central Eastern Europe, they were due to hold the bonus cup at Jesolo, but they've now changed the venue to Austria, which is due diligence from the championship. And I think in many respects, not just northern, but now southern Italy is another big problem, because For those that have been watching the news on the BBC or ITV or Channel 4, that there was a lady that actually ended up, that was from Palermo and has gone down to Sicily. So now it's affected both halves of the country,
right?
Which really does bring up the ramification. That there's not just in karting, but also all the way up to Maranello at Scuderia Ferrari. That they have publicly said about this, and the cases are intensifying in terms of the increase in numbers, and so there is a lot of due diligence, and there is a lot of talk that I've been hearing in terms of championships looking to reschedule, looking to resituate where they're going to be competing. So it is an unfortunate matter of circumstance, but with something as significant as COVID-19, which has not yet been declared as a global pandemic, the organisers currently, as you said, it is safety first, competitors, families. When you're finding that there's going to be at least 3,000 to 10,000 people at any one event, especially when you got over 300 odd competitors, like say at a WSK Super Master Series event, for example, say at Adria, and that's one of the regions affected in Veneto, and that is one of the venues for the Rotax Euro Trophy. On that front, I mean, just from my perspective, being involved with the championship quite heavily as media manager, but also the official commentator, we are keeping our eyes very wide open on this situation. And we wait to see how the situation develops over the coming months before making a relevant decision on that part.
Absolutely. Well, as news develops on this, the continuing outbreak story, we will obviously find out if there are any changes to calendars, be they for Rotax, for IAMI, or even for wider competitions such as CIK competitions. So we will keep an eye on that. One thing we do want to say is a massive congratulations to the IAMI Series of Asia. They still went ahead at Sentul in Indonesia despite the growing concerns. They had obviously medical teams in place and obviously made sure that everybody was okay and well looked after. So very good to see. And obviously there is still plenty of karting that we can talk about. It is a slight negative story that we touch upon, but we can, fortunately, having touched on it now, move on to some more positive aspects of the karting world. Let's go back to the IAMI Winter Cup from 2020 back in Valencia. Fantastic start to the season, and for the third time in 4 years, a Spanish winner in the X30 Minis. In fact, Monlau Competición actually dominating the Minis category, which was quite nice to see. Jan Paral and Sandro Perez having a brilliant battle to the end with Leo Robinson of the Fusion Motorsport team. Great to see them all find their way to the podium. Portugal's Santiago Alves in the top six, along with the British rookies Lewis Werrell and Gahal Clark. Great to see them up in the top six on their European debuts. Really good racing from X30 Mini in particular as well. And obviously the top three drivers now have a slightly eased journey into the Euro Series for 2020, with Leo Robinson getting one free round, Sandro Perez gets two, and of course Jan Paral has a free ticket to the entirety of the IAMI Euro Series, as well as the IAMI International Finals in October, which is very exciting stuff. Heading into the juniors, we managed to see an absolutely thrilling final lap showdown in the end. Absolutely incredible. The three-way fight between the three British drivers out there on the field. Freddie Slater and Aaron Walker taking their brilliant duel between Fusion Motorsport and Strawberry Racing into the final corner of the final lap, and both drivers just getting caught out by the intensity of the duel, and Bart Harrison storming up the inside of both of them to take the victory in the final bend for Mick Barrett Racing for what is easily the best win of his career so far, and certainly it could be a game changer in terms of the young man's career. He took the win in the end from Aaron Walker and Poland's Ollie Pilka of the Dan Holland Racing team. He was so surprised he got third position, he almost missed the podium completely. Freddie Slater
that is a regular occurrence with Ollie Pilka, I must be.
Bless him, yeah.
He does that in Rotax well.
He doesn't always know whether he's meant to be on a podium or not, bless him. Freddie Slater in fourth position in the end after a time penalty. Edward Pearson coming home in fifth in his debut for the Strawberry team, and Alfie Rigby, despite leading for the majority of the weekend, in sixth position, along with Ruben Volt, Ivan Arias, Dan Ginchard, who started the pre-final from pole position, and Freddie Spindlow in 10th. So lots of good performances there within the top 10. In Senior X30, well, we thought it was all going to be very much a case of the drivers that had won the event before But in fact, it turned out to be an absolute dominance from the new kid on the block in senior. He won the junior last year and won it again in senior this year. Oliver Behrman came through to give the KR Sport team their second win in 3 years in the Senior X30 category. The last man to do it, of course, was Clayton Ravenscroft back in 2018. Ironically enough, in kart number 259, which is the same number that Oliver Behrman ran with. Dean McDonald and Daniel Nogales, very popular Kart Republic Spain driver, managed to grab a podium on home soil with Tyler Reed, Alejandro Lajos and Philip Vava in the top 6 from Ruben Moya, Mark Kimber, Morgan Porter and Sean Butcher in the top 10. Lots of good performances, and it all, of course, leads to what is to come at the end of March, the first round of the IAMA Euro Series. One of the things that's going to make the IAMA Euro Series particularly interesting, and I want to pick up on this without us rambling too much about each particular topic, Alex, but it is really good to see that there are some prizes from IAMA Euro Series this year which will help drivers qualify for the Superkarts USA Nationals, the Super Nationals in Las Vegas in November. Great opportunity for some young drivers.
Well, I mean, especially when you've seen quite a few top-tier motorsport drivers, such as Robert Wickens, James Hinchcliffe, and, of course, the great Michael Schumacher having gone over stateside to compete.
Yep.
I think it's a great incentive that IAME plus also promoters RGMMC have come up with this sort of pardon the pun, trump card.
Oh, you went there.
I went there. But I think realistically, to have that opportunity to go across, stateside and race against the best over there in the US, Canada, South America, fantastic opportunity for all of them to have something a little bit more than maybe just an IAME International finals ticket at Le Mans. They probably want to go over there, and you never know. We've had drivers go over there and start building their careers by going over to SCUSA. And who's not to say that little chain reaction could start this at the end of this year? Anything's possible.
Absolutely. So we will, of course, pick up the story with IAMA Euro Series again in the next edition of the podcast, because by the time the next edition of Send It, episode 3 comes around, we will be just a couple of days away from the first round of the IAMA Euro Series. So we will probably be bringing you a special preview show from Marienburg in Belgium, which is, of course, where we're going to be this weekend as well for the IAMA Series Netherlands. It is the one and only broadcast that we'll be doing on Downforce Radio from that particular category, but you'll hear all of the coverage from the Mini Perilla, X30 Junior, Senior and Super Shifter categories, as well as the Tillotson T4 Series of Netherlands and the BEKC Endurance, which will be taking place on Saturday night. All of that is live and exclusive to Downforce Radio. Without further ado, let's move on.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
Club racing roundup from the UK scene now. Get comfortable, this could take a while. At Trent Valley Kart Club, Nathan Tye won his second event of the season in IAMA Cadet for the Oliver Rowland Motorsport squad on the Red Speed chassis, ahead of Macaulay Bishop and Zach Drummond, with Will Murter winning the B final. In Honda Cadet, Alfie Thompson gave Project One a brilliant victory, Lewis Islin and Connor Duncan joining him on the podium for SFR, and Harrison Mackie won the B final to kickstart his year in style. Minimax saw a victory for Coles Racing's rising star Mackenzie Douglas, who pipped Jez Williams and Stephen Duncan to the top step, whilst in Mini X30, Jack Hobson claimed his first win of the year, ahead of Lewis Bird and Rylan Ekberg. After Ekberg, Vinnie Phillips and Gabriel Stilp all emerged from their victory battle with front-fairing penalties. Theo Makuris beat Luke Watts and Sam Shaw to victory in Junior X30, with Finley Dunn claiming victory in the B final, and in Junior Rotax, a win in the B final saw Finley Harrison into the main event, which was eventually won by Matthew Higgins, ahead of his Dan Holland Racing teammate Harrison Collins, joined on the podium by Will Egby. Senior X30 was eventually won by Thomas Turner, just under a second ahead of Cole Kilner, with Harry Torpy in third, whilst Bradley Barrett gave Sodi Vitesse a win on their PF International debut in Senior Rotax, followed home by Will Ellswood and James Lingard, with Rotax 177 won by Louis Large, who beat Nathan Chafer and Sam Smith. Club 100 kicked off 2020 at Buckmore Park and saw Darren Teal take the win in lightweight sprints ahead of Steve Brown and Edward Bars, despite Mike Coppin winning all 3 of his heats leading into the final. Joe Holmes was unbeaten in the heavyweight sprints, with Anwar Beryl Smith and Richard Allen joining him on the rostrum. In SP60, Owen Genman and Robert Newman bagged a win and a second place apiece, with 2/3 for Greg Barnard, with Tim Clark and Tarek Almu winning a race each, 2 podiums for Beryl Smith, a second place for Wayne Lidgebird and a third for Stuart Martin in the heavyweight SP60. And in the endurance, the pro win was taken by Team Applewood, with Whisper claiming the intermediate, and the clubman won by Auditing Armageddon. Oxford Brookes A opened the 2020 British Universities Karting Championships calendar with a pair of wins in round 1 sprints at PF International, with Commentary A claiming 2 wins out of 3 in round 2 for the endurance event. Strathclyde A scored 2 wins out of 5 in the intermediate class, whilst the rookies race was eventually won in style by Joao Maria Jorge from Blake Checkitts and Jacob Seymour Self, with Monica Amy Hills in 4th. At Houghton Park's IndyCart Series, Jenson Jones grabbed victory in Bambinos, with cadets and Hondas won by Joe Murphy, and Connor Scarisbrick winning in the DRS Micromax final. Jake Gresty bagged the honours in senior two-stroke, with Jack Loughran victorious in juniors. Pro Karts was won by Andy Downey, with a first win of the year for George Bennett in gearbox, and two-stroke heavy was eventually sealed by Ian Cooper. At round 4 of the Lid Winter Series, Josh Pullen grabbed the win in the Rotax Senior Final, with Andy Locke winning 177s. George Donald bagged victory in Junior Subaru, and Jaden Neil Holder won Junior Rotax, with Finley Watson claiming Minimax. Anthony Parfitt grabbed the Honda Clubman win, whilst in Bambinos the win was taken by Teddy Porter, who was fastest in 2 of the 3 time sessions, the other won by Callian Russell. Mansell Raceway began 2020 in fantastic fashion, with Freddie Baker sealing the win in Honda Cadet ahead of Hugh Moulton and Wesley Coombs, with Finn McLaughlin grabbing the IARMY Cadet honours ahead of Cahal Clark and Alex O'Grady. Harry Linden won in Minimax, beating Finn Smith and Alfie Davies, with Ethan Simmons winning in the X30 Mini category, crossing the line ahead of Anastasia Dean. Matthew Higgins continued his winning start to his Junior Rotax campaign ahead of Joe Linden and Jez Williams, with Jack Cox winning in Junior X30. Luke Wooder beat William Roberts and Alex Luck to the flag in Senior Rotax, whilst in 177 Chris Thomas vanquished Ethan James Haynes and Liam Rabjohns. Despite Kim Bolton being rained off by Storm Chiara, there was no cancellation of Shennington by Storm Dennis. Rylan Ekberg won in Mini X30 ahead of Alfie Briggs and Kian Geraghty, with Ben Crossley claiming honours in Minimax. Whilst in Junior TKM, it was Alistair Cresswell who braved the wet conditions to beat Harvey Cole and Dominic Kilmister to the top step of the podium. Mitchell Morris claimed the Formula Libre win ahead of Paul Belton and Nigel Geraghty, with Henry Jocelyn taking the win in Honda Cadet ahead of Alfie Thompson and Tommy Harfield. Junior X30 saw a masterful drive from Milo Pilfold to win ahead of Luke Watts and Will Orton, whilst Zach Bowen won the TKM Extreme Final, beating James Pashley and Nathan Wells in the process. And Lucas Vaus rounded out the meeting with Senior X30 victory in front of Dan McKeown and Rufus Hunt. At the Teesside Sprint Series, Edward Haynes was victorious in Bambinos ahead of Lewis Smith and Ollie Carter, and in Junior Pro Kart, Jack Morris won the day ahead of Kieran Lambert and Asher Blythe. Catherine Potter claimed a very popular cadet victory ahead of Jared Fox-Whiteley and David Mack, with Connor Lucas winning the Senior Pro Kart final ahead of Jessica Alexander and Josh Balkus. Rotax gave plenty of action too, with Jude Cole winning Junior in front of Alfie Lindsay and Ben Pacini after his now infamous last lap encounter with Joe Slayman. And Senior was won by Max Prentice ahead of James Lowther and Daniel Kell. The rejuvenated Warden Law Kart Club began 2020 with a win for Edward Haynes in Bambino, with Jacob Rump and Ryan White joining him on the podium. And Charlie Benson grabbed a well-deserved Honda Cadet win in front of Sebastian Corking and that lady again, Catherine Potter. In Pro Kart, Jack Morris claimed junior success ahead of Caitlin Frame and Bella Franklin, and senior was won by Connor Lucas, who beat Jake Brooker and Scott Tate to the checkered flag. Rotax saw a great day out for Sophie Kinghorn, who triumphed in Minimax ahead of Lucas Jex and Oliver Buchan, with Max Edmondson winning in juniors in front of Dan Armstrong and Tristan Rennie, and the Hunters blitzed the senior Rotax final with Reese ahead of Kai, and Louis Large joining them on the podium. And finally, there was drama aplenty at Wilton Mill Kart Club for the second of 11 rounds. Ronnie Coburn grabbed a win in Honda Cadet ahead of championship leader Dalton Haywood and Hayden Clark, with IARMY Cadet won by Ethan Jeff Hall after a win by just 0.04 of a second to Connor Duncan, with fellow Strawberry Racing driver Archie Clark finishing third. Vinnie Phillips and Ella Stevens scored a 1-2 for Fusion Motorsport in Mini X30 ahead of Alfie Briggs, who finished third despite a broken wrist. Ben Rayburn beat Ben Crossley to victory in Minimax, with Bobby Rosier in third, whilst Matty Hingley won Junior Rotax, beating Tommy Edmonds and Noah Hadley by a clear margin. Sam Hawthorne fought his way to the Junior X30 main race with a win in the B final, and then Lucas Ellingham won the A final ahead of Luke Watts and Douglas Bolger, with Thomas Fleming claiming a convincing Senior X30 win ahead of Caden McQueen and Joseph Taylor. That's all from the UK Club Racing Roundup for February 2020.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
So at the weekend, I was able to pop in on Sunday morning to Wilton Mill. Fantastic club event, the Wilton Mill Kart Club. Great to see everybody there putting in another fantastic show in a very difficult weather conditions. There's a few people I want to give a bit of a shout out to, in particular to young Alfie Briggs, who finished third in the X30 Mini category, despite it was discovered after the event that he had a broken wrist. He'd had a problem over the course of the last few days with it being slightly sore after a testing incident, I think it was, or it might have been an incident in a previous event. And all through practice and all through the build-up to the event, he was complaining, it's a little bit sore, but I'm okay, I can cope with it, it's all right. And he was finding it very painful on Sunday, but still managed to finish the X30 Mini Final in third place. And then afterwards, they realised, well, it's actually really, really painful. They took him to hospital and he found he had a broken wrist. So fair play to Alfie Briggs. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, the dedication.
Chapeau, Alfie.
Yeah, the dedication that some of these kids have to their discipline is absolutely fantastic. So full recovery for Alfie Briggs. But one of the main characters that we wanted to catch up with there at Wilton Mill, we were able to get some time with, particularly with the news that broke in the last edition of the Send It podcast, which was that there is a new championship in Britain being run called the Electroheads series, which is for electric karting. And the man behind it is the right-hand man to Felipe Massa for many years in Formula One, both at Ferrari and at Williams, Rob Smedley. On the morning of the Wilton Mill Kart Club event on Sunday, I caught up with him. I'm very delighted to be joined by Rob Smedley, who's got quite a busy year in karting in 2020. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you could say that. Kind of a glutton for punishment, Jake. To be honest. I'm as is becoming more and more public knowledge, I'm getting more and more ensconced in the community. But I'm loving it, I really do. I genuinely really do love it. I think it's such a fantastic community, especially at the junior levels, where I'm involved. Such a great way for kids to learn, for families to get together at a weekend to kind of have that bonding time, whether it's dads and lads, whether it's mums and girls, or whether it's right up in the top team levels. I think it's just a great way for a family to spend a weekend. So yeah, I'm getting more and more involved in it. As you said, I've got stuff going on in the petrol environment. Just trying to, it's I wouldn't call it a team. That would probably be a little bit of a stretch, to be honest. It's just a little bit more of a band of brothers at the minute. Trying to. We're not going to be racing up at British Championship level. We're kind of, in the independent championships, and it's really just trying to give kids a chance in karting who probably wouldn't have got a chance. It's something that I feel quite passionately about, and there's plenty of talented kids out there, but it's an expensive hobby. So if we can somehow find some sustainable system, let's say, of trying to help those kids out, then brilliant, I'll do that. And then the electric karting, which is
we're fascinated about the electric cars. Tell us about how that's going to work in 2020.
Yeah, it's taken on a mind of its own now, to be honest. We're thinking that what we'll probably do. We're running around lots of different ideas, and we're in contact with all the community, and trying to find out what they want. Trying to look at what Motorsports UK want to do as well. This year, next year. So there's lots of different, let's say, ideas how it should work. I hope what we can do is we can bring a really good product to the market straight away in terms of the electric powertrain. I've been able to partner with, using some contacts. I've been able to partner with a really big EV OEM ready battery supplier. There'll be more of that later. Watch this space. But what they've allowed me to do is effectively put a battery on a go-kart that you would usually have to spend millions and millions of pounds in R&D to develop. Because of my contacts there and my relationship with those people, we can bring that technology to go-karting, which is a fantastic thing for us to be able to do. So it's a battery, it's a drivetrain that will be as light as the petrol equivalent. it will be as powerful as the petrol equivalent, and hopefully where we're at now, we think it will be able to get it to last all day as well without recharging. So we've got rid of all of that problem of charging during the day and the charging infrastructure and all the rest of it, which eventually has to happen. We have to work with the governing body and the circuits to make that happen. But I think, the way I see it, to be honest, Jake, we shouldn't be thinking right now that there either has to be electric karting or petrol karting, and we have to be dogmatic about it, and it's black or white. I think we've got to offer to the community all sorts of different levels of karting, different cost levels, different competitive levels, and if we can use electric karting right now to seed the very bottom level of the community, and not only seed the bottom level but to bring new members in, then it's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, because I saw you deep in conversation with your good friend and colleague for many years, Felipe, at the FIA Gala in December. I imagine the conversation wasn't just nostalgic. I'm assuming that you two are very deep in conversation about how this is going to work long term. Obviously, with him being the FIA karting president, you have a real passion for seeing this electric karting work in the UK. I guess the two of you are kind of in cahoots in a way to kind of see how this is going to develop.
Yeah, definitely. We were plotting. I mean, you were there that night. We were plotting.
It looked like you were plotting. I didn't want to say it, but it looked interesting.
Felipe and I have been talking about it for a while. We're both passionate about the same thing, which is giving something back to a sport that's been, absolutely incredibly fantastic to the pair of us. And that's not because of our personal brilliance, that's because of life's karma of being in the right place at the right time. And we both recognise that, and we want to give something back, and we both equally want to get a bigger community involved in karting, a bigger membership involved in karting, right across the world. This doesn't have to be a UK based thing. What I'm doing with my company that I founded, Electroheads, we want to build it up to have international scale. So we're working with the CIK, we're working with the FIA, working with the governing body here, and it's not just about us trying to have a monopoly in the market as well. It's about trying to create a market space that there's going to be a lot more people can get involved in it. There's create more jobs, create more enthusiasm for the sport. What's not to like, basically?
Now, I've been in and around karting for nearly 10 years, and I got the privilege to drive the CRG Arrive and Drive electric kart at their factory last year. And my immediate instinct with this technology and this equipment is that drivers are going to love it fairly instantly, but the industry is going to need perhaps slightly to be convinced of that. Do you see that as one of the biggest challenges for this new project, for Electroheads, or do you think that as the format develops, it'll pretty much take care of itself?
I think right now it's the former. It's going to be we're going to have to bring the industry and the community along with us, and I think I have a duty of care, as founder of Electroheads, if you like, to do that. We're here at Wilton Mill this weekend, MSUK club event. Fantastic amount of people here, great racing, and these are the people who are the lifeblood of the sport. So I'm new to this. Although I've been doing motor racing for a few years. DC was here yesterday, my good pal of mine, and we were chatting, and we're kind of like newbies on the outside, and like hoping we're not going to get into trouble with the stewards and stuff like that. And I really do feel like that, and I shouldn't be arrogant enough to walk in here and think, well, I'm going to change things and everybody's going to follow me because of what's happening in Formula One. Absolutely not. I have a duty of care to this community who's got karting to where it is now, to help them and to bring them on board. An electric karting, as I said, right at the very top of this, we shouldn't be dogmatic that it has to be electric or it has to be petrol. We want to bring something to the market that everybody wants, and the community or the market will tell us what they want, not us telling them what they want. We can perhaps guide them with products or show them things or show them ways of going about it, but we've got to get feedback from them as well. The team, we've got to get the teams on board. The teams are really, really important. The teams are a massive part of this sport, whether they're the very, very top teams that run at the British Championship level or the teams that run at independent, the smaller championships. They're really, really important, as are the dads and lads, the mums and the mums, grands and girls, and all the rest of it who make up the lifeblood of this sport. So we got to look at right across that spectrum of people what they all want. And then it's up to me to be able to work with them and work with the governing body and work with the community itself to kind of to be servicing all them different pockets, so that everybody's getting a bit of it, and nobody's feeling left out or feeling pushed out or feeling, oh well, this is going to ruin my business or whatever. Absolutely not here to do that. Here to help.
So what can we expect from Electroheads as a brand in 2020? Is it going to have its own package? Will it be part of an existing package? Will there be multiple classes? How can we see it evolve?
Well, at the minute we've developed a Bambino drivetrain, and we've developed a Cadet equivalent drivetrain. We're going to, the plan at the minute, and these are fairly nascent plans, but it's in development, all day, every day. Is that we're probably going to get out there with a full arrive and drive package. So rather than ask the community to get involved and invest in stuff that they might use once, or they might love it and continue to use it, rather than get them to take that risk, I think it's better if we take that risk and we get out there and we put on let's say an 80 kart weekend or something like that. So I've partnered with Birrell. Got some good friends over there in Italy. And they're keen to get involved in this. So going to be Birrell Bambino chassis, Birrell Cadet chassis. We'll put the Electrohead drivetrain, the electric powertrain on the karts, and then I'm going to bring something like equivalent of 40 Bambinos and 40 Cadets, split that into 2 grids, something like that. So we've got grids of 20. And you can have a great weekend racing. I need to talk to the tracks. Need to keep working with Motorsport UK, see what they want to do at British Championship level. But then if we can, if I can take that as a road show, if you like, bolting on the back of club weekends, or alternatively just coming and having our own weekend, and running slightly bigger grids or slightly more events or something like that, slightly more categories during that weekend. There are lots of different ways we can do it. I'm talking to all the tracks now. Thankfully, at the minute, they're all welcoming me with open arms. They want to make this happen. They want to definitely, what we talked about at the start, seed the market right down at that bottom level, get people involved. Low cost option for a weekend of racing. If they like it, sign up for 10 races. If you don't like it, carry on with petrol until you've made a decision. But I think if we can make that a really, really easy option for the punters and the community, that we do 18, 20, something like that events all around Great Britain this year, full arrive and drive package. So you come and you sign up and you have a weekends of great racing. You become an Electrohead, at the same time you become part of our movement. As long as we can get that price point right and the community like it, I can't see what's not to like, really.
When I first looked at electric karting as a concept, I thought, nice idea, but I was originally, about 5-6 years ago, a naysayer. Having actually had a proper look at it, I can see that there's not only massive potential in this in England, but I genuinely think this is something that could expand to the sense we've got IARMI, we've got Rotax, we've got Rock. There's a genuine chance that the Electroheads brand as an alternative option could become something global. And I know that obviously Felipe's got this passion to take karting to the Olympics with an electric drivetrain. Is this kind of where you guys are seeing it? Is this an alternative to what we currently have that could be as big as, say, IARMI, Rotax? Is that where we would see it lead?
100%. It might be, to be honest with you, Jake, it might be a slightly different market as we're trying to seed that market down at the bottom end, and get new people involved. And I think that's what I'm definitely about, is trying to get new people involved in karting, rather than trying to cannibalise or take over an existing market where which is really well run and there's a lot of good people involved. If you look at the community that already services that market, and I do see this. You've got to be ready to scale this, fairly quickly, on a global scale as well. So a lot of our partners that we're talking to, in the way that we can get this up and running, not only in the UK but across Europe and then into markets. Well, something that's really important to me is trying to get into markets that don't exist at the minute. What about kids in India, in Africa, in China that never get the chance to see all of this? I'm very, very fortunate. I'm very, very privileged. I know all that. I remind myself every single day. But if I can use that very privileged and black book, if you like, of mine, to help me get into countries like that. And have low-cost form of karting, a low-cost, easy form of karting, let's say, where you get in and you have to turn it on. As long as I can build the infrastructure to do that, again, it's just about growing the market down there, and I think it's going to be great because eventually all of that, you're going to find talent within that pool in those emerging countries. It's going to eventually bubble up into the cream of Europe and World Championships as we see it today.
It sounds like a brilliant cause, and I really want to see it progress because I think it's a fantastic concept. You're going to be burning the candle at both ends this year, though, because obviously you're going to be looking at Electroheads, and then you've got the boys out there doing their race program as well.
I've got the boys out there doing their race program. I've got. I am a director of Formula One. So my good friend Ross Braun has now made me a director of Formula One. I've got an engineering consultancy where we're here, there and everywhere and doing fairly big motorsport jobs all around the world, and I've got a wife who's very, very angry.
So am I. We're getting busier and busier. They're very tolerant. I have to say, it's great to hear you talk about this. We're really excited to see how Electroheads comes on, and we wish you and the endeavour all the best moving forward. Thanks very much.
Jake. Thanks very much.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
So there you go, Rob Smedley, who is going to be championing the electric karting efforts in the United Kingdom in 2020. He wasn't the only personality that I managed to see over the course of the weekend. In fact, a very familiar helmet was running around in Ayami Cadet. It was the blue Saltire racing helmet, because the surname Coulthard is emerging on the karting scene once again. It is young Dayton Coulthard, son of David. Plenty of young drivers over the course of the weekend managing to get a quick selfie with the Formula One driver. From 1994 until 2008, and of course it was really, really exciting to see, another Formula One personality's offspring getting involved in the sport. But fantastic to catch up with Rob in particular, because of course this is something that, if it works very well, and we've heard about things going on with the DEKM, the German series has an electric karting series. There was an announcement today, I think, as well, that there is a Latvian. Or is it Latvian or Lithuanian karting championship?
Well, there's not just these. There's also a Spanish championship that's emerged. Thanks to my good friend Abel Cruz, who's a Catalan working for Red Bull España. And apparently, I think it's called Play and Drive, and it's the fastest electric kart out there in terms of a lap record and top speed. And I think one of the test drivers actually hit nearly 170 kilometres an hour at... I think it was Valencia.
Fair enough. And I hear as well that Darren Beavers has got 5 of his Might E karts that are basically being discounted ready ahead of the new season, and they're going to be racing for the first time in April.
Sold out.
They're sold out now. Oh, okay.
They have sold out at the discounted rate.
There you go.
And that's great news, because obviously Darren was talking quite a lot with Might E, and I'd heard the likes of Logan Howes, Hallie Findlater had all tested these karts. I think Hallie was one of the kids that ended up driving with Rob's product through Electroheads. So there is a lot of correlation now that the motorsport ladder is not any longer constricted to the internal combustion engine. And I have to give kudos to Rob for what he's decided to do. And it was really good to see that, you had Club 100, our good friends over at Arrive and Drive, Mr. John Vigor and Chris Simpson and all that lot, doing a fantastic job as always. You then had the Daniel Ricciardo series run by Andy Cox, and then right at the very end of the queue, Electroheads, and it had a little Bambino kart there. And I thought, you know what? That's really good that Rob has decided to go full bore, bring something new to the table in karting, but also echoing what Lewis Hamilton said about the costs in terms of getting younger kids into motorsport. And I think it's a great way. And if it's at a fixed cost, low maintenance, I think that's going to be good for the future of motorsport talent, not just the UK, but globally.
Yes, indeed. We're looking forward to seeing how that develops. Good luck to Rob and the entire Electroheads team. We'll be picking up that story again over the course of the year. Right, it's time for our first major karting debate of the Send It podcast season 2020, and I wanted to look at qualifying. Now, this is a very contentious debate and a very interesting subject in and around the world of karting. While you were at Campillos, we decided to grab the opinion of a former kart racer and W Series competitor who was joining you for the weekend anyway, and see what she had to say about it. So here is Sara Moore's take on qualifying in karting.
In my opinion, I probably prefer karting without the qualification because I like the mixed grids. Comparing it to, as I was saying to Alex before, to the W Series reverse grid at Assen. It's nice to actually see the fast drivers trying to come from the back of the grid, and then that's where you see the real driving standards, because it's okay being fast. You can do as many test days as you want to be the fastest guy out or girl out on the track. Yeah. But whether you can overtake or not is a totally different thing. So I think, in my opinion, it's actually good to see the mixed grids and see the faster people trying to come through the mid-pack.
Interesting stuff. And we actually put out a message today as well on the Karting UK Facebook page, of which we're both members. Thank you very much indeed to everybody for contributing to this section. It'll be interesting to see what different opinions are. Darren Beavers has actually written the first comment. He wrote, "My opinion is that qualifying should only be for selected big races, such as Kart Masters or the O-Plate. In the British Championships, I think they should mix it up a bit, like we have in Super 1 and the Bambina Kart Club Championship. We do qualifying and 2 finals on the Saturday, and random gridded heats and a final on Sunday. It's the best of both worlds." That's actually a really good way of doing it, Alex.
It's quite interesting to hear Darren's take on that, and I think at the end of the day, he's got very good reason, because obviously you want to spice up the ante, let's say. And I think in some respects, if you mix up the grid a little bit, you're going to see some people that would normally be at the front through qualifying start maybe at the back end of the grid, and they've got to fight their way through. Now, we've seen it before in other single-seater categories. Let's not forget Jamie Chadwick in W Series. The reverse grid at Assen, perfect example. Tries to get past, gets stuck behind. And who's not to say that could happen?
It's a very good point. What other comments do we have? Sam Elliott writes, "I'm old school. 3 heats and random starting positions in all, please. I'd also like to see the using of numbers 1 to 10 banned at all events, apart from seeded drivers from the British Championships." It's an interesting one. Okay, we might have to pick that one up on another occasion, but thanks, Sam, for that opinion. Neil Hamling says, "Personally, I'm not a fan of qualifying. It does favour the more experienced team driver. With the random grid format, you don't suffer the consequences of a bad quali. The top driver should still surely make his way forward and prove his skills. And unless you were at the sharp end in the first couple of laps, those top places are almost impossible to achieve. As numbers are dropping off, surely it is more encouraging for drivers to be up there in the mix, albeit temporarily, than feeling as though they're just making up the numbers." Alex, he makes some very good points there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give you an example from what I saw at Campillos. Junior Rotax. Now, we had 9 Brits head over there to that fantastic circuit. I have to really give a big kudos to Martin Roivers and his team for making us feel so welcome, and what a great track. But there was a perfect example. Because with the format that we have in the Euro Trophy, qualifying was 5 minutes each class. Junior Rotax was split into 2 groups, and on aggregate, you put them into the relevant groups after the qualifying session. So depending on how Group 1 did, how Group 2 did. There was a standout driver to me, and that driver, you will know, Voisin from Coles Racing, had a difficult qualifying, very difficult qualifying, but we both know the kid is rapid. In other words, the heats he managed to get, I think it was sort of round about lower part of the top 25. And he comes storming through the field to finish 15th in the first final. And then final 2, when everything kicked off between Pilka, Walker, Ginshard, Babikova, Abskava, he was one of the ones that literally kept his nose clean. So in some respects, qualifying, yeah, you could... I think in some respects, this is echoing Darren Beavers' comment from earlier. But you could have... Sorry, my voice is still not recovered yet, Jake. Whoops. But effectively, I remember shouting at the top of my voice, I said, And there's Callum Voicing. He's in third place, having started 15th on the grid, and I enunciated every single word. So with an event like the Winter Cup, I think that'd be quite good because you lottery the drivers as well in the qualifying sessions.
I do like the idea that qualifying should be there for the big events, like for the FIA in particular. I think it works for the IAMA European, for the Rotax European, for the WSK. I think qualifying works at that level. It's interesting. A lot of people have some very interesting takes on it. Alex Spinks, Mark Baines and Zach Oates all say get rid of it, quite simply. Nick Cunningham says, we ran random start positions at Stretton Circuit last year. The experienced drivers like it, but the novice cadets didn't, as the less experienced drivers starting at the front then felt pressured and pushed by the faster drivers on the first few laps. Works for some, doesn't for others. Interesting point. Alan Hookey says, we in the UK have traditionally produced races with great skills when it comes to passing and racing. Much of this has its roots in the traditional format of 3 heats and a final. For club karting, it has to be a must. Sean Cake has a brilliant idea. You're going to like this. He says, I think you should pull a numbered peg out of a bag for each race. British Touring Car Star. That is a brilliant idea.
Well, it's funny because when I did the Rye House Pro Kart Winter in early February, we had 2 races. So normal quali, so you had a 1-lap qualifying shootout for the first grid. So you had 1 attempt, that was the second grid. We mixed it up, so it was numbers out of a trophy. So that's, I think, is quite nice. When you can do something like that, you have, like, if you have 2 or 3 races, you do like the first 2, okay, right, because on some of the IKR stuff I do, such as Rye House, the first race, well, qualifying determines your positions for the first heat, and then basing it on the points that you accumulate throughout the day is where you end up for the next one. So for the penultimate race, which will be heat number 2, if you did really well in quali, had a bad one in the first heat, okay, you're going to probably end mid-pack. And then if you do really well in the last one, you could probably end up towards the bottom part of the top.
Yeah.
A random draw at some point would definitely spice it up. And I think what they should do, IKO should be, get your points through through quali, the first 2 heats, and then maybe, irrespective of where you end up, you do an on-the-spot grid draw whilst you're after you've done your formation lap, especially if it's standing.
It is fascinating, the different opinions that we're getting from people, though, and these are all incredibly valid points as well. Kareem Arafa says, I think we should keep qualifying. It gives drivers a lap time to aim for and is safer, resulting in less incidents at the start of races where overwhelmed or inexperienced drivers are leading 30 karts into the first corner. Possibly get rid of it in sprint-type races with less than 10 karts in a race. That's an interesting thought. David Higgins says, the random grid works well most times, but when you have very mixed abilities, it can cause problems. Definitely makes for some good racing to watch, but also more damage. It's a good point. Alan Taniai, our good friend over at TDI Media, writes, random grids teach racing skills and how to overtake, in my opinion, far more exciting. Toby Baldry, who races in the Danny Ricciardo series, he says, random grids, better racing, but qualifying for big events should be there, as people can get a bit messed up with grid positionings. And finally, Duncan Haller says, qualifying certainly has its place, but nothing teaches drivers how to come through traffic and overtake like random grids in 3 heats does, followed by a final. This is all brilliant stuff, and thank you to everybody from Karting UK's Facebook page who have contributed. What are your thoughts, Alex? What do you make of it? What is your position on qualifying in karting?
I think for more international races, such as, say, for instance, Motorsport UK British Kart Masters Grand Prix, which both myself and Henry Burdett were privy to last year, being the commentary team for that. I think for Rotax Euro, IAMI Euro Series, also major events such as the IAMI Internationals, the Rotax Grand Finals, FIA, CIK, FIA. But I think with IKR, it must. I think really with the club racing, it needs to be changed a little bit, because I'm all for qualifying, but then you can have a problem where an issue during qualifying emerges, where one driver that's just like in race weekend is going up against kids that have probably had 9 to 12 months in the seat, and straight away the first thing that's going to do is dishearten the kid from moving forward, and having that opportunity to to do things on their own terms rather than sort of being forced into a format that they're not 100% okay with, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, so I see what you're saying. I often wonder that, I personally agree with you to the extent that I think that certainly domestic and national and regional championships should be non-qualifying, because the thing is, you'll learn qualifying skills when you get into cars, whatever happens. If you're going to go down that route, you learn qualifying skills in cars. In CIK-FIA, I think it works. I think it is the right system, although it's frustrating, and obviously drivers still have the problem of having qualifying laps ruined. You need it in an international event, so I think it should be there. But I do feel that certainly in domestic and in club championships in your native country, you shouldn't have it, because you do learn the skills to be able to work your way through the field, which you can then adapt in the international scene where you do have qualifying. You can sometimes find yourself out of position, but by not having qualifying in your regional and domestic categories, you've learnt the skills to be able to come through the field.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Jake. I think it's just sort of, it's dependent on the grandeur of the event, and
I mean, you've been there as well. I have. You've been there 100 times before when you are talking to the drivers. Having watched them all the way through the practice sessions on the Thursday and the Friday morning, for a fact that they are quick. They are putting the times up on the timesheets. They are ridiculously fast. You come to them at the end of Friday, at the end of qualifying, and you want to be positive with them. You go up and you talk to them and say, "You've been fast all day, brilliant," but their head is so dejected, and they're really disconsolate because they've come through qualifying, they haven't got the toe, they haven't got the track position they wanted, and they've ended up being 0.7 of a second slower than they were in the practice sessions because they haven't got the ultimate qualifying time. And it's difficult. I mean, there used to be an argument that you could maybe do one-shot qualifying, one lap at a time, but the problem is with that system, while it's fair, it just takes so long. I mean, it would nearly add an extra day to a race weekend, and we're already having issues with these weekends going into Thursdays and Fridays as it is. I
mean, with regards to the Euro Trophy, we run on a specific, when I started with the championship, when Camp Company GmbH and MW Race Consulting took over the governance of the Rotax Euro when it was the Max Challenge under RGMMC, we started with a 7-minute qualifying session for the 4 classes. And then we were finding there were problems in qualifying. And it was not necessarily down to the structure. It was also down to the tactics employed, not just by the drivers, but by the teams. And we had a particular incident in Austria, at Brückenderleither, not too far outside of Vienna, where some drivers were leaving it until the last 3 minutes, or maybe even a minute and a half.
Yeah, that's the thing I can't stand.
Off of the pre-grid. And so then there was a team managers meeting. The managers were then told, right, okay, there is a new stipulation of qualifying. If your driver is not out within 60 seconds of the green flag being waved, your driver is not part of the session.
That's a brilliant rule. I like that rule. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
But then it's got better, Jake. We run 5-minute qualifying sessions, which gives everyone equal opportunity to put in a lap time. If it's a banker and then they find they have a bit of a difficult lap the one after, at least the banker still stands. So it's not completely the end of the world. But we had to be very draconian about it because from my perspective as a commentator, you want people to go out there and push the limits of adhesion on the tyres. You want them to find that nigh on perfect lap and get past someone by literally hundredths or even thousandths of a second in qualifying. And you want that spectacle. And there are some people that thrive on quali and really, really get a good sense of motivation.
Yeah.
But as you say, there are those that come out of qualifying. And the first thing I do is I don't sort of try and sound positive. I always look at sympathy, empathizing with the driver and say, didn't look like it worked out for you then, was there something off? So I'd then be asking the questions to get the information that I need to convey it. And with the amount of friends that I've made in the paddock in the Euro Trophy B&L karting series, everyone is forthcoming with the information because they know that, I mean, you know this as well, by being the voice of a particular championship, you get to know the idiosyncrasies, the little nuances, and the way that you can you can speak to people in a way that they'll respond in the right way.
Yeah.
It might not sound positive,
I mean,
but at least you're getting something out of them.
I want to bring up a point about qualifying in karting leading to bad habits. And I think there was one particular incident within the motor racing calendar from 2019 that seems to have been wiped out of the carpet a little bit. And it was Formula One qualifying at Monza 2019.
Now, don't even get me started.
Now,
don't get me started on
Q3 ended up looking. I think anybody who isn't sure what we're on about, head to the Formula One YouTube channel and go and find the qualifying highlights from Monza. And anybody who is a diehard karting fan will have seen this going on in major international karting qualifying events, and it still happens now, where you're basically getting drivers waiting and crowding around. And the last few international events I've been to, it's got ridiculous. It's got not just silly, but outright dangerous. And I think there needs to be a precedent set in particular for drivers waiting around for a tow, because I love the sport and I absolutely adore what karting is doing, and its growth is fantastic. But there are little niggly things like, the waiting around in karting and the queuing up and teams deciding, well, we all need to run in convoy, we need to wait for the right person to come around. Some of the sessions I've seen already in 2020, it's suicidally dangerous, doesn't even begin to cover it.
We've had some red flag sessions in the Euro Trophy last year because people were doing, and the race director would actually red flag them, get them to the start grid and get every single one out of their karts and say, right, this is unacceptable. This is not going to happen. And then explain the reasons why, the danger of it, because I don't want anyone, I mean, you and I both don't want anyone to get hurt in karting. Of course, incidents do happen when they're racing, but during qualifying, that is the most decisive time where if something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong good and proper.
I mean, I understand people's grievances when it comes to, the lack of qualifying. I mean, Siobhan Turney, who, of course, is mother to Joe Turney, who's had an amazing start, she has written lower kart damage bills from qualifying than random grids. And that's actually a reasonable argument because, of course, if you've got drivers in multiple different positions and some have not got as much experience as others, it does tend to cause more accidents. You do get more chaos because of drivers trying moves and obviously trying to charge their way through the field, faster drivers than the ones in front. So that is a converse argument. Liam Smith has come up with a brilliant suggestion. Qualifying is good, but at most tracks, it's only 6 to 7 minutes. It needs to be 10, at least, especially at the big circuits. Now, well, I see his point, but I think the only way that could work is what you were talking about earlier of having drivers making sure they're out there absolutely within 60 seconds of the start of the session. Otherwise, you are sat there, and we've had that before in both the FIA and at IAMA Europe, I remember in the past. We've had sessions where they're sort of 8 minutes long, the sessions, and nobody goes out until there's 4 minutes to go because they're looking after tyres. And that's how the chaos begins. So it's difficult because I see precedent in the 10-minute option. I see precedent in the random grids, but I also see a precedent in one-shot showdown, but it's too long for organisers to initiate. It's very difficult to come up with a solution because whichever solution you come up with, you're never going to please anybody.
Exactly. I mean, when you and I both know that, the top teams in European karting, such as Strawberry Racing, KR Sport, Dan Holland, Coles Racing, some of these parents are putting in thousands and thousands of euros every single year for their children to compete. And then I'll just give you an example. With the Euro Trophy, the drivers have 2 sets of tyres for practice and then 2 sets of tyres for racing and qualification. And if you put a 10-minute window on qualifying, first of all, you're then going to have to say, well, we might need to put another set of race tyres for each driver. Then that's going to build the costs up, means the parents are spending more money, more logistical operations for the organiser and promoter. Then you've also got so it has that knock-on effect. Of course, the tyre company is going to be the winner at the end of the day, but then you've got to think of the costs implicated of those drivers that are looking at Formula One, the World Endurance Championship, possibly DTM, or maybe even racing overseas, say in IndyCar, Super GT, Super Formula. these parents are not spending small amounts. They're spending big bucks every single season. And the thing is about karting, it is the place where drivers learn their craft. But then it's also one of them from a possibly, I don't have children myself, so I can't really give my proper take. But from my viewpoint, parents are putting so much money in behind their kids. I've heard that kids that I know of a couple of drivers that are not racing this year because the money has simply run out.
Yeah, Elliot Harvey is no longer racing. He has no money. Alex Lloyd. Yeah, Alex Lloyd is one of the best young drivers to have come out of karting in the last 5 years, and he's got no more money left, which is such a shame.
Yeah, Ilian Brunsils is the age of 16. Has been running with Boovin Power. He announced his. He said no more karting, and I WhatsApped him, and he said, "Yeah, it's to do with the budget, and all you get is a trophy." And it's a real shame to see some of these young kids. I mean, even Mike van Vught, 2-time Euro Trophy Junior Rotax champion.
Yes, indeed.
Has dropped off the face of the earth. And I'm just like thinking, these parents, Mike won 3 championships in 2018. Dutch, B&L, and also Euro Trophy. He was the inaugural champion under the Euro Trophy that it is now.
Yep.
So it's not easy for these parents, but it's also even more difficult on the kids because the kids are taught racecraft, but then like you say, these bad habits, especially with qualifying, can really, really cause a potential problem in the future. So
it's a tough debate.
I think the argument is still very much open on that point, Jake.
Yes, it is. We'll close it with the most concise argument from both sides. Robert Heron writes, qualifying, if you're the fastest, you should be at the front. And then, of course, from Madcroc UK, Simon Parker says, heats then final, no qualifying. That is karting. Fascinating to hear the two different viewpoints. Interesting to hear your thoughts. Thank you all for contributing to our debate. It's obviously one of those conversations that will rumble on and on and on for decades. But we love to hear your thoughts, and thank you for contributing to it.
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
Well, we're coming to the closing stages of the second Send It podcast. However, we have got some cool things coming along. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about IAMI Netherlands. That is live this weekend on Downforce from Marienborg for Saturday and Sunday. Yours truly will be jetting out to Marienborg. In fact, by the time you listen to this, I will be in Belgium, probably tucking into a nice cold beer. And speaking of Belgium, there is definitely some cool bits and pieces coming up starting in March. Alex, with the start of the Benelux. The BNL, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, you got this wrong last time, so I will re-educate.
Re-educate me, come on.
The BNL karting series. BNL does not stand for Benelux. It is the best new leading karting championship. That's
I apologise. I always thought it was a short acronym for
You
Benelux.
did that? Yes, you've done that before
apologise.
several times, and I had to slap your little wrist on that one. But on Saturday, the 7th of March, live and direct from the home of champions, Karting Genk. In the afternoon at around about, I think, let me just see because I have got the timetable to hand. For the first time since I've commentated on the BNL karting series, we had Saturday afternoon qualifying because we have 151 drivers, 16 different nationalities. The furthest afield is actually a German that runs under a New Zealand licence as well. But there's been a couple of interesting developments. So timed qualification will start from 16:30 Central European time, starting with Micromax, and then we'll have we'll have Micro, Mini, DD2 Masters, and then we will have the Junior Max Group qualifying. So we have 44 Junior Max Junior Rotax drivers at Karting Genk. So we'll have a Group 1 and a Group 2 qualifying session. And they will be lotteried. So drivers will be mixed up. We've got 40 seniors, 27 DD2 drivers, and 13 DD2 masters, micros and minis on the circuit. Plus also, we have a couple of new additions, which you definitely took notice of earlier on today. On Wednesday, Jake.
Yes, indeed.
The first one is Scott Marsh from Dan Holland Racing, younger brother of Sam, no doubt, who won the Winter Cup at Campios. He has entered, but it's not just him. Another significant Brit, who earlier on this year was announced as one of the many Kart Republic factory drivers. Harry Thompson joins the senior Rotax division for the B&L karting series. And what is up for grabs is that all the weekend winners will get an automatic entry ticket to the 2020 Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy at Le Mans, which takes place between the 28th of July and the 1st of August.
Fantastic.
And what's more, it will be the second official live Rotax radio broadcast following on from the Winter Cup at Campillos, and it will also be streamed live and direct from the Home of Champions on the Camp Company GmbH YouTube channel with myself on lead commentary and also my good friend Ben van der Stucker in the pit lane. You won't be able to hear Ben on the Rotax radio feed, unfortunately, because we're not able to tap into feeds. I don't know why, but I've got to try and work something around it. You know me, Jake. So the Home of Champions, 1,360 meters. You've been there before. It's a fantastic circuit. And I'm really looking forward to going there. But in other developments as well, whilst we've been talking, I've been keeping my eye on the Rotax Euro first round, which will be taking place at the very same circuit between the 10th to the 12th of April. That will be the first of 4 race weekends this year on the Euro Trophy calendar at Karting Genk. We have reached nearly 100 registrations so far over all 6 classes because we have Micro, Mini, Junior, Senior, DD2 and DD2 Masters. Micro and Mini will be with us for the first 3 rounds, so Genk, Adria, obviously, in the late part of May, and then PF International concludes the seasons for both Micro and Mini, and at each race weekend, the weekend winner gets a ticket to Le Mans. How's that?
That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Look forward to the BNL kickoff. That's going to be a really exciting weekend. And then, of course, at the end of March, it will be the first round of the Ayami Euro Series, which will kickstart also at Belgium as well, over at Marienborg. And so that will be the real meat and bones of our podcasting season. Don't forget, there is plenty still to come on the March edition. Keep up to date with everything that we are doing in the world of karting on Downforce Radio via our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages. It's going to be a really exciting 2020 campaign. We obviously announced recently that we will have live coverage of the Rotax Euro Challenge as well as the Ayami Euro Series. So there's plenty of great karting action for you coming over the course of the year. We're obviously going to have lots of live interviews and some good bits and pieces from all various paddocks around the karting spectrum. Massive thank you to Rob Smedley for his contribution to today's show as well. And we will continue to bring you more great news and features. If you want to get involved as well, you can do. Drop us an email, downforceuk@hotmail.co.uk, or send us a PM either on our Instagram, Twitter or Facebook pages. Good stuff, Alex. Thanks very much indeed. How can people keep up to date with you?
Well, you can head to me on... actually, I have to give a shout-out to someone because you got the picture shown to you via Facebook Messenger. Thank you very much, the Dual Ride Diamond, Mr. Lewis Gilbert from Potenza Racing Engines, who got me on the podium.
Yes, he did. He gave you the proper champagne treatment.
Right down the back of the neck. And thanks
to Ollie Behrman for doing the same to me at Valencia, not for the first time either.
The thing was that yours got turned Oliver.
Yes, I turned it into an Instagram viral.
Yes, at a Goldschmidt 77 on Twitter. On Instagram, you can find me at Alex Goldschmidt 77. You can also find me. Well, I've got a personal Facebook page, and then I've also got I'll give you my official one at Alex Goldschmidt 1977 on Facebook. You can find me there at any time, come day, come night, whatever the weather. So yeah, that's it from me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex. And for myself, if you want to keep up to date with me all the way through the karting season, it's at Jake Sanson on Twitter and at Jake Sanson Official everywhere else. I hope you've enjoyed the second edition of Send It. There's going to be plenty more coming through the course of the year. There'll be special editions from various different racetracks over the season. But of course, our regular scheduled podcast will return on the last week of March. I'm Jake Sanson. He's Alex Goldschmidt. See you again on Send It. And don't forget, wherever you are in the karting world, lick the stamp and send it. Take care.
It's good night from him.